morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible to the people in the back. Perfect. So, also very warm welcome to our virtual participants who are logging in from around the world. And I'm looking forward to this. Is the first time that I'm addressing virtual participants from the BA convention here. So a very warm welcome to them too. So today we will look at how to apply business analysis, design thinking to business analysis. How many of you actually participated in the BA convention the last year? Okay, a handful. And the reason I wanted to look at that is because last year in the same convention we talked about the changing role of business analysis and how in the digital world the role of business analysts needs to be looked at. So in my session I had raised a dozen questions on, given these sort of different changes in requirements, in architecture, in customer behavior, what is the role of the BA and how the BA has to respond to those changes in the marketplace? I'd given a few suggestions, but more importantly raised quite a few provocative questions there. So, along the year I met quite a few BAs, and some of them, seriously pondered on it. Some of them were concerned and worried. But this year, given that we have design thinking as a theme, I thought we'll go straight in and see how design thinking can help us resolve and help us move forward in this new digital world. How many of you currently, even raise your hands, are working on client projects as business analysts? A majority of you. Okay, so this is absolutely spot on for you. So I have clearly focused on how to use design thinking in application services, and that's the majority of the work that we do here. Okay, so we saw this in the last year, how every industry is under pressure, right? Every industry has pressures coming from within in terms of regulation, consolidation, digitization, etc., and also from outside the industry in terms of ongoing convergence, adjacencies, customer empowerment. Customers are beginning to dictate. Finally, the power is moving from manufacturer to the customers, and they are beginning to ask for things in ways that the provider of services and products never ever imagined in the past. And so we need better tools. We saw how the ecosystem of every industry, the value chain of every industry is getting disintermediated. We saw how new competitors and new players coming from the fringes or even from outside the industry are making dramatic inroads, like the fintechs or automobile companies, or every industry has new players coming in and actually dramatically changing the economics of the industry. And when that happens across the value chain, it actually shakes the fundamentals. Customer behavior is dramatically changing in every industry. Customer loyalty is very different. So customers are beginning to dictate the way they would like to get serviced and what sort of products that they would like to have. And so as the balance shifts, we need every industry, the CXOs of every industry are now worried about how am I going to manage, especially the more established, the more successful a company is, the more worried they are. Can they maintain that position? There was a McKinsey article on what sort of companies are likely to get disintermediated, disrupted, and I would encourage you to read that article. Very nice, on demand supply based, also looking at what sort of characteristics that a particular company exhibits within an industry, where, for example, if you're giving more than what the customer needs, but charging him for the full piece, then you're ready to be disintermediate, because somebody is going to come in and give just that bit that the customer needs and not charge him for that extra. So buying in blocks. So what happened to the music industry, right? How video streaming and Apple came in. They started giving, you can download individual music, individual songs instead of buying the whole album, right? That's a great example of how industries can get disintermediate. So we need design thinking. So look at what design thinking does, right? Design, the concept of design itself is evolved from doing graphic design, product design at a very simplistic way, move to interactive design, and today you can design business systems and service design, right? Service design, so important for the service sector. We see in every service that we sort of experience, I wish it was better. I wish this insurance company didn't call me 10 times and then ask me the same information which I filled up in the proposal form. I wish this my car service dealer doesn't call me and ask me 10 times the same thing which he's asked me before. I wish my credit card company, multiple people call me and ask me the same thing and still don't get. And every time I call in, I have to repeat the whole thing all over again. So there are plenty of problems in service design, and we need some mechanism by which we could help. There are companies which are involved in service design doing extremely well and sort of giving dramatic results. And we will see how we can use some of those in the current way for business analysis. So diving deep into design thinking. What is design thinking? At the core of it is human-centeredness, right? Human-centeredness is about, many a times we look at technology and get excited by technology. And the moment it is feasible by technology, many of us in this crowd, we think that's the solution to customers' problems, right? But the business analysts out here, they say, wait, guys, don't just get too excited by technology. Let's look at it business viability. Let's put an ROI on it and look at it. The moment there is a technology capability and business ROI, we run and say, look, this is the real solution to the customer. But more often than not, we miss the human element of it, right? The human element of, is this desirable? Let me give you a couple of examples of desirability. What examples can we think of that's happening around us today? Let's look at the food industry. Let's look at McDonald's, for example. Why are they changing the sugar content in the bread and the buns that they sort of are contributing? Why is Coke and Pepsi and all these aerated drinks now bringing Diet Cokes, zero sugar Cokes, etc.? Why is that? It's a concept of desirability. That's what customers are saying. Customers are making a clear choice of what to do. And there is sufficient activism on human values and desirability today. And so manufacturers and of products and services have to take this in mind if you got to be successful in the market. So you see human desirability, human values, and the desirability of a product or service becomes extremely crucial. And then this is encapsulated in the way Walt Disney talked about it, right? You can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality, because you cannot do it with robots. You got to have that ability to feel the human factor. We spend a lot of time designing a bridge, but not enough time thinking about the people who are going to cross it. How many of you feel the same when you're delivering projects? Right? And only when in user tests you realize this fundamental thing, I am a big-time business analyst and I missed it during requirements. Why? Because we didn't think of the user as much on how the user is going to use it, how he's going to feel when he's using it. When some feature is used, how does he feel? Does he feel elated that it solved a lot of issues? Or he feels, again, the same crap. Right? So if you can build it during design, there you go. You have actually touched. So these quotes touches the essence of it. And so there is of late a huge shift towards people and emotions. Accenture releases a technology vision every year. And 3 years ago, there was every business was a digital business. Then we talked about platform economy. We talked about many technology trends. But surprisingly, 2016, technology trends came out talking about people first. Why is that? So at the core of everything, technologists are beginning to see that it is the people who will make the difference at the end of it. It's the I and you who will make a big difference. And if you look at the key technology trends of intelligent automation, liquid workforce, the platform economy, predictable disruption and digital trust, at the core of each of these technology trends is about people. And that's a big revelation. How many of you have heard of Industry 5.0? Surprising. Industry 4.0? Okay. So in the World Economic Forum, Industry 4.0 at Davos, 4.0 was pretty much talked about, and that's 6 months ago, as the new thing that is coming in the horizon. And today people are already talking about 5.0. What's 5.0 actually? They say there are two forces, the human and the robots, robotic in the automotive sector, in the industry sector, and they must complement each other. It's not one replacing the other. And today's Industry 5.0 talks about how humans add that special something. How humans add that special something, get repetitive tasks and certain things done by robots, but then give jobs to the robo, take it back from them and continue to do something. Correct? So you will see that in this blog post, I found a nice picture of how a robot and human are working together, actually passing work between each other in a nice way. Now, this is going to take place. This is supposed to be the upcoming thing. And it's going to hit our industry too, right? All of us are hearing of cognitive agents. All of us have heard about digital assistants. So we have heard about how digital assistants will pick up, and when they can't do something, they will pass it back to the humans. It will be both ways. It will be that how humans will receive calls or talk to a client and say, look, let me pass on to my digital coworker, and he or she will help you get things done. And if beyond a point that person is not able to, the digital worker is not able to help, seamlessly passes it on to a human worker who takes the deal, completes the work, and then passes it back and closes it. Passes it back to the digital worker to close all the follow-up actions. That's where we see this happening. And Industry 5.0 is talking about it. So that special something about humans. What is that special something about humans that we need to add? Why is that relevant for us? So this is the slide that I ended last convention, the role of BAs. And we talked about how BAs have three important roles. One, BA as a value generator. Two, BA as an advisor. And three, BA as a facilitator. Let's look at a little bit in detail on how BA as a value generator can work. So in a value generation framework, what does a business analyst is expected to do, right? So a new project is starting. What does he do? He either does a gap analysis, or he gets into requirement elicitation, goes, meets various people, does requirement elicitation, helps putting all these solutions together, doing a solution shape, and more importantly, as he's doing the solution shape, begins to identify specific levers, value levers that will help this particular client to do. So the business analyst is expected to do identifying business levers. And why? Because he can link it back to the business KPIs and the outcomes seamlessly, right? So the solution design starts thinking about with the end in mind, identification of solution levers, and then putting them back into the solution. So what tools do we have currently? How do we do that currently? We do requirement workshops. We do interviews. We use structured diagrams, decision trees, UML, swim lane. Finally, document sign-off. Once that sign-off is done, you've actually bolted, bolted the problem on the customer's neck, right? That's it. After that, he's locked. After that, we make merry. Why? We produce this system and say, you signed it off, right? But for long, many manufacturers, and it includes all of us in the IT industry, have imposed our terminology, our techniques, our way of looking at the world on our customers. It has been a manufacturer's world. And if our customers and end clients don't understand some of the the jargon in the IT industry, we make them look small. And so they run faster to understand the jargon, and they created an organization called procurement. Correct? The procurement organization, they learned the jargon, and they know how to deal with us. But is that really needed? What could have been done differently? If we had worked with clients to understand their business model, if we had understood how to go about doing it. So design thinking gives us a fantastic capability of understanding the design, the business model design along with our clients. Let me spend a minute here. Maybe a little difficult for people behind to learn, to read, but this is a business model canvas which actually lays out the entire, how you look at a particular business. In this example, we have taken one customer segment, and you'll see here, there's one customer segment, right? If you pick one customer segment and then see the linkages of this customer segment. So for this particular segment, what is the value proposition that we need to give? Many a times, clients themselves may not be able to articulate the value proposition. So what do? If we are consultants, we dictate, right? So this business model canvas helps you, and you will see that there are post-it notes there. It's not written. It could have been typed. It could have been printed. Why is that not that way? But you use post-it notes. You can move things around. You can take it out, add it back, alter. So this is a mechanism by which you co-create with your customers. So you pick a customer segment and figure out what the value proposition is. What do you do next? Then you identify what customer relationships are needed to deliver those value proposition. And then you say, what are the channels through which I'm going to use to bring this product or service to the client? It has to be absolutely tight. And every time you go back to the customer segment and say, for this customer segment, does it really make sense? Is this the right channel? Is this channel enough? Do I need something more? Okay. Once you do that, you start looking at what would be the revenue streams that will come through these different channels. What are the different revenue streams that I can generate? So the interlinkages begins to come out. Once you do this right side of the thing, then you go to the left side. What are the left side? What key activities that as a company we have to do? What key resources do we need to have to accomplish to deliver this value proposition through these customer channels to this particular customer segment? And what is it that we can do? We must do what resources we need to have, and what are the partner resources that we have to leverage, right? So, and then you look at for each of these resources and key activities and partners, what is your cost structure that will do? And then again, map your cost structure with your revenue streams and see whether it's all working tight. So the business model canvas, and many a times our customers also may not be able to see those interlinkages. So design thinking gives you an ability to actually work with your customer and bring all your interlinkages together. And we have seen how we are in the startup, we are the startup capital of India, right? And we have seen hundreds of entrepreneurs, and some of us have also been bitten by the startup bug. We pick one idea or one value proposition, rush into it, as though that's the solution. But if you've seen, the episodes like Shark Tank, etc., what do they actually do? They actually check that if you are targeting a particular customer segment and a value proposition, do you have the right channel? Do you have the cost structure? Do you have the key resources? Whom are you going? They actually ask questions around these linkages. Design thinking gives you that ability to look at your client's business in a 360-degree mode. And you know what? The magic of it is many of your customers themselves cannot articulate their business model as well. So jointly, if you can work this together, the magic that comes out of it is just tremendous. And imagine if you add one revenue stream, one additional revenue stream to your client's business, imagine what's going to happen. If you jointly identify one customer segment that was unserviced before, and when you're discussing resources, something will pop up. The amount of value generation that you can bring to your clients is just enormous. So business model canvas is a fantastic tool that design thinking gives us to actually work and create some enormous value generation activities. So you get a shared understanding, most important, shared understanding of strategic intent, shared understanding of what. So how many times we write requirements without realizing what exactly it's going to, what you're going to do. Clients will only answer you questions that you've asked, right? They cannot imagine what questions you have not asked. And just think of it. So imagine how many questions you don't even have to ask, but it will all get answered when you actually get the interlinkages between different aspects of a business. This gives you a 360-degree view and understanding of your client's business. And then you know what? It pops up. And when you do it with your clients in a team setting, ideas just pop up. Okay? So we move on. So in a value generator, you have to figure out how to unlock value from your client's business, right? And along with that comes, you can generate value for your business by unlocking value for your client's business. Now, as BA, as an advisor, so what is an advisor supposed to do? An advisor is a specialist. What is it? When do your clients look up to you as an advisor? Look up to you as an advisor when you know you have done this many times. You have expertise in this area. You've got a track record of delivering this. And clients, you've done it for your clients as competitors. And clients want to know, how can I benefit from it, from your insights, right? So when a client is looking at you as an advisor, what do? You do market analysis, strategic insights into what the industry is doing. You give them insights about customer behavior in that particular industry and possibly even adjacencies. And you bring, how can I get technology-based differentiation for your business, right? We bring in technology aspects and say, hey, why don't we try this? Why don't we try this technology? And then you start funneling everything back into requirements, stated and unstated, right? So when we do all this, the standard techniques that we have with us as a business analyst is market analysis. We do analytic models with BPM, and we use industry frameworks and industry KPIs to bring this out. But is this enough? Does design thinking give us something more? The answer is yes. And the core of it is human-centeredness and empathy. Okay? So design thinking gives us, you can actually do the user persona creation. So if you really know who exactly is the user, and in design thinking workshops, you actually work with photographs of the persons who are actually using your application or actually using your product. You go down and see the entire life cycle of these people and actually start taking photographs. And sometimes it looks very odd. Photographs? This is this touchy-feely stuff, playing games. What is this? But it reveals a whole new aspect of your client's persona as they are working their environment. Things that they will not say, things that you will never ask can be brought out. So the user, you can create a user persona, and you will be amazed that just with about 8 to 10 photographs, in design thinking workshops, we get answers. We create a whole person and the needs and what they do, what they like, what they work, where do they work, how do they go about. The entire persona what do they like, and what are the living habits, and what are the pain points, and what are they going to do next, and what do they like to do. The entire persona is created. Why is a persona created? Why is a persona important in design thinking? Human touch. You begin to understand emotions of your users and what they like and what they don't like and what it relieves, what pain it relieves, and what problems it solves, right? So user persona creation is a fantastic tool. People who have used it in design thinking workshops will say, wow, I never thought of it so much. And when you know so much about a person and a user, imagine so many nuggets of solution pieces that you can build into the solution, right? And think how you can make an emotional connect with your solution to your user. That's the biggest benefit. And then we do a lot of interviews, right? As business analysts, we do client workshops and interviews. We stay far away from emotions. Aren't we trained to stay far away from emotions? You have to be absolutely prim and proper, just use neutral questions, don't try to go beyond. But design thinking says, plant stories. No, don't ask that question. We'll come back to that point later. But you don't allow a flow. Customers love flows. And emotional aspects comes out through flows. So instead of getting the clients to actually talk and go with the flow of the solution, we restrict them in structured ways, in a structured way, and say, that's question number 432, wait for that. Yeah? So design thinking says, plan for the flow, go with the flow, get the emotion out, point the stories, ask them how they feel, why they feel that way, who others do they interact with, and why do the others feel that way about your end client and the end user. That brings in richness. Again, design thinking helps you think about the special something that Industry 5.0 was talking about. So how does that help us? That helps us create prototyping. So prototyping is another thing that as knowledge workers, especially in the IT industry, we think it is Lego, using Lego. No, not for us. We bring Lego only for our children, right? And when the kid asks us to play, leave Papa alone, leave Mama alone, don't bother us, right? But and we all know that today Lego is being used in management training as collaboration technique because there is a particular magic when you create prototypes using blocks and different artifacts. So you can actually create, and when I did the first time, how can you create a prototype of a service, of an application management service? You know what? There are plenty of prototypes you can create. And when you start creating this with your client, there's a completely new magic that happens. In fact, the future of requirement management will be dependent on prototyping. You start creating requirements after you do a prototype and not create a prototype from requirements. Does that sound odd? I felt odd when I was pushed, when I did my first design thinking training. I said, get on with it. Go build. No, I haven't thought about it. Once a design challenge was given, let me think about it. First thing is, let me think about it, put down the points. No, go, get going. So they say in design thinking, think with your hands. Think with your hands. And when a team of 5 different people are working on a prototype, it's pure magic on how the ideas evolve and you bring together in a time-boxed way. And in 45 minutes, in an hour, you will see brilliant prototypes coming out. And the best thing about prototyping is it is iterative. And the more initial prototype you can share with your clients, the better. So prototype with Lego blocks, with props that are available. Design thinking encourages prototyping. Highly iterative way, doing it with your clients. How many times we bore our clients with PowerPoints? Bore them to death, right? They come all the way from the US or Europe. They're already jet-lagged. We make them sit in a room, comfortable AC, serve them tons of coffee, still doesn't help. But prototyping, you actually are on the field. You're not sitting down. You're actually, a design thinking workshop. How many of you have attended any design thinking workshops? Right? You just don't sit down. You're actually on the move all the time. In fact, the room is completely bereft of chairs. There are only some bar stools to just stand for some time. So prototyping is a great way to elicit requirements, to validate and test. And design thinking tells us, don't advise clients on what to do. Co-create along with them and check very often and early. So failing early is very part of design thinking. We all are taught not to fail, right? In fact, we take failure, oh, I didn't like it. And if you come out of a meeting where the client says everything is great, then we feel good about it. In fact, a design thinker will feel very sad about it. Why? He hasn't got that real thing that he wants to improve on. So a design thinker always looks at feedback. He opens it up to a variety of people. And then feedback is the energy that goes into the next iteration, right? Because the earlier the bad feedback you get, the better. And we have all seen in software development life cycle what happens. Okay? So design thinking gives you early indication of what works. Because you co-create with clients, they take this along with you and present it back to the leadership of their clients and say, hey, we have worked on this, and this is the reason why it will work, and this won't work. And then the senior leaders also come and then play around with the prototype and say, hey, can we change this a little bit? Can we do this like this? Oh, I never thought of it this way. You allow the touch and feel of multiple senses in a solution, and then you sit down peacefully and start writing your documentation, right? So prototyping can drive requirements. Let's move on to the third one, the facilitator. And why is this facilitator very important? The facilitator is important because in this changing world, when business models are changing, client expectations are changing, technologies are abundant, too much of competition from inside, outside the industry, new markets coming in. Our own clients, if I'm running a business, I cannot tell you what needs to be done. It has to be co-created. And then we expect the business analyst to know every technology in the world, every methodology in the world, every new business happening that is happening. We said, right, God's gift to mankind. Dr. Sandhya talked about it yesterday. But that's hard. And so business analyst has to pick up a new skill. And that skill is about being a facilitator. A facilitator, what does a facilitator do, and what is the expectation of a business analyst when you're a facilitator? Is that not that you know everything, but you know how to bring SMEs together, how to work with SMEs and take the best from SMEs in the particular subject. What else is expected of you? You must have the ability to reconcile conflicting points, take the discussion together, and moderate discussions in a way. So when you're in that facilitator hat, you've got to display that collaborative capability. Because design thinking is all about collaboration. The quicker you master the ability to collaborate, the better you are as a design thinker. You generate consensus of conflicting requirements. Design thinking gives some fabulous abilities, and we'll tell you what it does soon, of generating consensus. Many a times we have seen when we are working environments, I put my idea on the table and don't budge. Because until my idea is accepted, I don't let the team work. Because I'm too much attached to the idea. It's not about me. It's the mechanism. It's human beings who are too attached to their own thinking. But design thinking gives us a way out of it, and we'll soon see that. So our current focus group discussions, we do SWOT analysis, interviews, document. We analyze the documents, and then we put it all together. Great. Is that enough? Is that enough? Design thinking gives us something more. But before we go to design thinking, especially in the IT world, Gartner has talked about bimodal, right? Bimodal way of working. In the new digital world, there are new applications that needs to live in the digital space, and that's going to evolve at a different pace, and the legacy applications will evolve at a different pace. Accenture calls it the dual velocity approach. To do that, clients source for content, source for resources, source for services from their service providers in a bimodal way. One, for the world we already know, where you can still do requirements, you can still, there's a known, there's a release plan, these extra features need to be added for the existing legacy systems. But for the new world, you got to be exploratory in nature, right? For this mode 2, we have to, and today we are talking about how will we tackle mode 2. Mode 1, no, we got the tools, we got the mechanisms, we've got enough track record of handling that. But for mode 2 is where the issue is, right? So Gartner recognized it very early on how to do, on the need for exploratory way of working. Design thinking has some nice tools. The first one is called creative reframing. So what does creative reframing do? This is what we do. Right? We actually, there's a design challenge thrown out. And then you pick the design panel. For example, how do we improve traffic situation in Bangalore is a design challenge thrown. And then you start using the design challenge and reframe the challenge. So there are very techniques. And if you see here, there is a design challenge thrown up. And you underline different challenges on what is unclear. So you look at multiple other ways of being clear, and multiple other ways by which you could explain that particular thing. For example, running a bus service versus having a transportation company. Dropping children to school versus ensuring children's safety during transport. Things like that, right? So you underline different aspects of the design challenge and then find out what are the other possibilities that can be there. So you widen the scope, okay, of what is not clear. So you can go back and ask that question and clarify that. Then you take another step to go and give variants of that. You use another color ink. For example, you see red and green, black and green, to explain that there are other ways of tackling this problem. This is what, you can say many ways, these are techniques that different companies use to redefine customer value propositions. So when Apple came up with iPhone, no customer gave this requirement to them. Did any customer give it to them? No. What did they do? They creatively reframed the requirement. So we have all heard about stated versus unstated needs, right? So you take a stated need and then take it beyond the realm of stated to unstated needs. Go for the need behind the need behind the need, they say, right? And when you do that, then you get a completely reframed design challenge. So before you start anything, you can start with reframing the problem. So in a world when you don't know much about it, you use a reframing technique to come up with a design challenge. Yeah, any design challenge. So creative reframing helps us broaden it, go beyond the space of what is obvious. There are certain times solutions are embedded into a design challenge. And then you actually work to take that solution out and actually bring a little bit of generic nature of it. So it gives you a little bit of wider space. You also use a why-how laddering technique by which you go up and down the ladder to say, why do you want to do it? And why do you use that? The same question you ask 5 or 6 or 7 times without irritating the client, of course, by the why, the need behind the need behind the need. You ask why. Why are you doing that? So why do you need to accomplish that? And so what will you accomplish by doing that, right? So you will establish a hierarchy of whys on why you do that. And once you do that, you will realize that you will find nuggets of needs coming out of the hierarchy of whys. And that helps you solution and get it back into your solution reframing. Once you do that, you can use customer journey mapping. I think many of us have used customer journey mapping, but it is so amazing. It's so amazing that in a customer journey map you can see the ones on the top are high when the customer feels good, and the ones below the line, the middle line, are the ones customers are feeling bad about it during. And when you do customer interviews and then identify what is his journey, when you bought a telephone, when you bought a mobile phone, when you bought a TV, when you bought a service, when your customers, clients actually approach them to buy, How do they feel about it? And when you capture those feelings, you realize that there are many points where clients are feeling, your clients, the customer journey is really bad. Then if you focus on that particular touch point and lift it up, you will see a sudden lift up in the service quality. So customer journey, if you pay attention to customer and his emotions, the clients and their emotions, and map the customer journey, lo and behold, a lot of value levers will come up, and you will have solutions to many issues. Territory mapping is another great tool that is available. So when you get into a new world and say, look, let me give you an example. In our real world, we are all into IoT. How do I apply IoT for my client? IoT is a vast area, right? So there are plenty of things. You can just go analyze to death and just get lost. So territory mapping is a great tool, which you use brainstorming techniques, you use different SMEs, and then start, use Post-its to actually put on different aspects of what that particular issue is. How do you apply IoT for insurance? How do you apply artificial intelligence to retail industry? So you explore every aspect of it, to every stakeholders, every service, every infrastructure that is needed. You put it all down on the map, and then you start categorizing them. So there is a way of categorizing. So this is a health insurance example of putting different. So you put the customer in the center most of the time. Design thinking says put the customer in the middle and start thinking of different stakeholders, different things, and you'll see all these bubbles, all the issues come in, and then you can write up all the other factors that influence this particular solution. That gives you a frame of reference from where you know certain things. You categorize them, things that you know, some things you research, some things you go and explore, some things you jointly figure out along with your clients. And that gives you, in an uncertain world where you don't have a way of going forward, territory mapping gives you a fantastic jump start and a frame through which you and your client can look at the problem together. So, high impact facilitation by business analysts gets you deeper understanding of requirements, especially in a chaotic world. It gives a service quality input. We saw how you have identified specific touch points. You can't boil the ocean, but if you identify the touch points which needs to be bumped up, you can really bump up the service quality or product quality. You get a 360-degree view of the business because you use all aspects of the problem. You are able to look at it and then pick and choose the ones you want to explore and go deeper, and also have a common understanding of where you're not going, which area you're not going. That drives that, and most importantly for IT projects, it will help you drive up the quality and success of IT projects. Let me give you a simple example, a banking example here to illustrate the point. So here's my banking customer who's in the US, and the customer typically says, I'm a big client, and these are my traditional competitors for the products and services in my line of business. But is that enough? The point is no. But if you look at the second wave, you have seen there's a whole lot of payment, new competitors who are setting new expectations of this particular client of mine, right? PayPal, Mint app, Google Wallet, Apple, all these guys have come into the banking space and setting very different types of expectations of service and service quality and product quality. Now, is that good enough? The point is no. At the outer periphery, nothing connected with banking are other perceptual competitors who are influencing my customer behavior on what to expect. People say, hey, give me a Facebook type of a UI. Give me a way by which I can interact like I do on WhatsApp. What is this? Why should I pay you so much? Even if I use Uber when I want it at my price, I can still pay less. Give me a Uber-like of experience. I don't know how many CIO type of discussions we have had. What is the Uber story in my industry? What can you create an Uber type of business for me? Why is that? It's the perceptual competitors, okay? And so when you look beyond your boundaries and you're dealing with customers in a chaotic way in this sort of, in today's day and age, to look beyond even perceptual competitors and where they are influencing customers and services becomes important. So I'm going to switch to a new chapter to say, give you some real life examples of how, 3 examples of how design thinking has dramatically improved a product or a service. Okay? So the first one is very much close to us in India. How many of you have seen babies in incubators? All of us. And when you see these babies in incubators, they're literally helpless, right? They're away from the mother. They need the warmth. They need a clean environment. They need, the quiet environment. No shakes, no jerks, and things like that, right? And so this environment was provided by predominantly large hospitals imported from the Western countries, where you could give this type of a clear environment for babies. But is this healthcare available to the many parts of India, many parts of Nepal, many parts of the emerging economies? The answer was no. So the design challenge thrown to design thinkers, students exactly, was they went to Nepal. The problem statement was, how can you provide this incubation facility to Nepal? Nepal has, as you know, few towns has large hospitals. Interiors, absolutely no. There's no way, and there's a huge infant mortality rate. And these design thinkers actually did, what did they do? They went down, the students, at their own cost, they went down and went and started studying how the babies are looked after when they are born. How do the mothers feel? What do they do? How do they take them to the hospital? How bumpy the ride is? How many deaths happen when they are taken? How many times mothers and the parents themselves don't even take them to the hospital? How do they freeze in the cold, right? Unhygienic conditions. So they studied all of this and they realized that there are only 3 important things that are needed. And this comes at a cost of $25,000. And $25,000 in small rural areas, impossible. Forget it. But these design thinkers did something fantastic. They created a wrap, a sleeping bag, at 1% of the cost. 1% of the cost of the incubator, which delivers exactly the same function. What does it do? You see the blanket is warm. The material that is used is very warm. You see the yellow, the material inside. That's actually a very special type of fabric, which is antibacterial. They decided that the actual need is to keep the body warm in a place close to the mother, and where it can be transported from one place to the other, and it can still deliver the entire function of an incubator at 1% of the cost. There's a special wax which is installed in the fabric that keeps it warm, even in very cold countries, right? So when you focus on the real issue and the feelings of how the mothers and the people and the doctors and the hospitals, all of them were helpless. How can you give 25,000 worth of incubator for one child? And 1% of the cost we are able to deliver. And it can be reached to every nook and corner of the world. Amazing example. So I'm personally very touched by this example. Procter & Gamble. I'm sure all of us have heard of Pampers. All of us have also heard of Huggies. Procter & Gamble had this Pampers brand for a long time, and they're one of the early adopters of design thinking. And there's some fantastic videos on design thinking in Procter & Gamble. Any of you have worked for Procter & Gamble here or served Procter & Gamble? You may know the story of Procter & Gamble, design thinking. So Pampers was a big product, important product line, and then they were using this for, they had fantastic market studies, analysis, everything, but this brand was losing market share. Huggies was all over the place. Number one point, the Pampers, which is a market leader, was saying is absorbency. The number one, they researched to death on absorbency and brought out the best materials on absorbency, because they realized every study they conducted, it says absorbency is the #1 criteria for this, right? But they were losing market share, and Huggies, which had half the level of quality of absorbency, was still making inroads. But why? No survey gave them the thing. Then when they applied design thinking, they realized that the touch, no mother likes to get a plastic feeling for the child. The feeling of the mother when you put the Pampers full of plastic all over the place, never felt good about it. But with Huggies, they could feel very good about it. And they realized that the touch when you wrap the baby with the Pampers, with the diaper, was a very nice feeling. And absorbency was okay, but when you hold the baby with the Pampers, with the diaper, it was most important, and that never came out in any survey because it was never asked, because it had to be felt. So design thinkers were able to solve this problem in a big way and revived a business, and it became a $10 billion brand globally. Finally, how many of you have heard of Kohls, a retail market chain? Established as a US market chain, established. Big problem. They were unable to, plenty of e-marketplaces, they had websites, they had portals, they had everything, but they're not able to get, the user experience was bad, etc. So again, design thinkers went in. They started understanding not just the features of what needs to be put into a portal, which are dime a dozen, but about how the shoppers, online shoppers, feel about when they are using a portal. What is the feeling, right? Lo and behold, what they came out was, when people shop and the entire family needs to shop, they go and the mother goes and shops something and she sees something very nice for the son or for the daughter or for the husband or someone in the family. There's no way of then and there communicating. So they actually created an app through which you can share, you can take a photograph or you can share pieces of it with your colleagues, with your friends, with your family, etc. And hey, this is a very nice thing, why don't you check it out? And with all the promo codes and everything which goes with it, right? The experience of sharing something, and in a materialistic world, when you have to give something and share something in a material way, it's the highest level of satisfaction. Design thinkers captured that special something in Kohls, and they were able to implement the features in the app which actually gave them an 800% uptake, and at some time it became the highest rated mobile app, which surpassing almost the best, second best in the world or something of that sort. How is that possible? It's possible because you go in for that special something of the feel, how the users are actually feel when they use your products or services. I talked to you about 7 or 8 different methods. There are many more methods. There are many, many more methods to get the feeling out of clients, to really get to need behind the need and actually feel through the need of your customers and clients, right? As business analyst, you've seldom done that. Design thinking gives you all these tools, okay? So let me wrap it up. Important thing from design analyst standpoint, show, don't tell. Most of the time, you're telling how the service will look like. Create the prototype, show them. The clients will get them together, show them. Keep it close to human-centeredness. Human-centeredness is desirability, feelings, human empathy, human values, whether it's good for the user. Extreme collaboration. No one person can find this out. The more the heads, the better. If you learn the art of going behind the initial irritation of your colleagues when they're putting something together, you master the art of collaboration, you can be a great design thinker. Iterative. You will never get to the solution in the first time. Learn and fail early. Fail early and often. You eliminate a lot of things out of the way. Iterativeness, and the purpose of giving in us an iterative output is to gather feedback. It is not to feel good about what you have created. It is to get what is not good in that, also equally or even more important to say what is not good in that. So iterative, think with your hands. It's amazing that how much of ideas flow when you start doing and collecting with your things, not think and then do. We are all trained to think and then do. But when you're beginning to think with your hands, there's a different magic that happens in front of you. And you know what? Design thinking is fun. People who have attended design thinking workshops say they've never had so much fun in their life. Okay? It's creative because it unleashes a creative force that has been dimmed over our formal education for many years. Finally, design thinking thinkers love change. They ride on the wave of change because it's fun. Design thinking can be fun. It can bring back fun into the workplace. So I urge you to be great design thinkers. That's the end of my presentation. Happy to take some questions.
Hi, Ramesh. Thank you for the informative presentation that way. So my question is, how can we apply design thinking to legacy applications, especially when there is a lot of resistance of change from the client himself?
From the client themselves.
Are there any specific techniques that you can recommend that this is the approach that you can take for a legacy application, something like which is around for 30 years or 40 years or more than that?
Yeah. So embedded in all these legacy applications is value. You have to unlock value, right? So when you co-create a solution with the client with a prototyping on how it has to be done, you begin to identify value levers. So use any of these techniques, and you can identify. You put a customer journey map on the customer who's end user who's actually using that application. Lo and behold, you'll find a lot of points where you can bring it up, right? So you use a creative reframing of the problem. You will realize that legacy applications, you jointly together, you'll realize maybe this application is not worth it. Maybe we need to sort of bring something new into the model. Bring examples of how you can touch and feel and get a very different view of a customer experience. Is this application really giving you the customer experience that you need, or other things can be done, right? How can you unlock embedded value? There's a lot of things in migrating, getting new things, or even refactoring applications, or just putting a simple app as a front end on top of it. There are many ways by which. But don't worry about the solution. Concentrate on what the problem you're trying to identify, and then from there you move to a solution.
Hi Ramesh, this is Robin Johari from Shell. A question on prototyping.
Sorry, I'm not able. Okay.
Yeah, okay. A question on prototyping. You said that we can use prototyping for IT applications also. So can you give few examples, like how I have done it as through Visio, showing via data flow diagrams, but
yeah,
using Lego. Can you give a few examples that you have seen?
So I've got an example. I've got a chart here of, sorry, I'm doing this a little ad hoc, but this is an example, right? So this is an example of creating a new, there's an example of how we can provide, IT services for a client in Europe. They have restrictions of regulatory restrictions. They have security, data privacy issues. They have high cost. There's an example of how there's a prototype on how, where you'll locate some services, where you'll apply language translation, where you can do this, where we will have an innovation workshop, where you will have, the branding issues. You put it all together. You explain the solution through a prototype and how the whole thing, what will happen, what techniques will be used, what protocols you're going to use. You bring it alive.
Yeah, but this was actually for a complete service. But if we are, like as a BA, most of the time we are working on a limited application.
This is for applications. This is for IT applications. This is for IT applications. So basically, we're too much taught in the IT world to think abstract. Need not be. You bring it alive. We have imposed abstraction on clients. But the person, your client's client, is not going to use abstraction, right? How do you design a counter? How do you design things? How do you bring, why should it all be that way? You can also use prototyping to bring it out. You can bring one particular small service and the interaction on how it is done. How is it done today? Tomorrow, how will it look? How do we, draw the boundaries? What protocols we use? How do we, assemble the queue system? How do we new products? How will the new product impact the customer? How will the new, and then you put the application that will deliver that service and not the other way around. We think of the application and what it can do. No. What is the service that you want to fundamentally redesign? And so you build your solution around it. Make sense? Try out a prototyping. Unbelievable experience.
Hi, my question is, do we have any matrix model in place? As in, for example, you talk about prototyping, you talk about various aspects of design thinking. When we are dealing with our customer, and if we go back to customer and say that there is a possibility that by implementing design thinking, we can improve the value for your business, they are not going to like it just because my things are working fine. Changing the customer mindset. For that, do we have a matrix model in place that by implementing prototyping, you are talking about at least 10% improvement in ROI?
There are plenty. So okay. First, I would say there are enough customers and clients who have big problems they want to solve. So don't try to solve a problem to a customer who doesn't have a problem. There are enough problems and enough clients who want your help. So first go there. Having said that, what the outcomes will be obviously available because you're jointly doing it with the client, right? You're jointly researching, you're jointly coming up with a value of what the business value will be delivered. The best thing about when you do this jointly with the client is you don't have to convince the client because you're doing it together. You're not doing for a client, you're doing with the client. So prototyping changes the dynamic of change management within an organization because you will find the coaches and the sponsors and the ambassadors within the client organization. So, yeah, so the very dynamics of how you deal with your client will be very different.
Hi, Ramesh, here.
Yeah.
Very insightful, very thought-provoking. Thanks. One question is, we are moving towards agile and rapid development and all that. So this looks like it takes time because you are actually doing it iteratively and all that. So time is how is the time factor taken into consideration?
Great example. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. But actually, this will cut down time by 50%. You'll be amazed in 30 minutes and 45 minutes what you can accomplish. You cannot accomplish of weeks of discussions, weeks of brainstorming, weeks of going up and back, weeks of long documents. You can accomplish in 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and 1 hour. And that's the magic. Try it. And many times we think, customer gives us an RFP, and in 2 weeks we have to respond. We are just running around trying to just fix the response. You know what? We don't even we spend so much time building the bridge, but we don't think of the people who are going to use it. You think of the people who are going to use it, just put a few things around, hit the main issue, and you're home. It will cut down, my guess is much more than that, but a cool 50%, you get to the heart of the issue.
Hi, Ramesh. Thank you for the insightful session.
Sure.
My question is, since it's becoming more customer-centric, to convince the legacy customers, has it become more important for the business analyst to go to the role of a market researcher to empathize a customer problem? Like, instead of gathering information, are business analysts participating in seeking information?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we talked about the bimodal way. In the mode 1, you take requirements, it's a known issue, there's a predictable path. But in mode 2, it's exploratory in nature, right? Design thinking can be applied even in mode 1. But in mode 2, highly relevant. So you go, that's why, and that's the role of the business analyst as we change, that mode 1 is going to shrink. The IT budgets, we currently are looking at about 60-70% of IT spend moving towards mode 1, and it's going to shrink as we see. And the exploratory mode, the new digital world is going to expand. And so, build your skills in the new world. Yeah? So, any last comment, because I'm already over. We have
hi, Ramesh. Anant here. We are streaming it live, so we have a question from the remote participants.
I have a duty to take that.
So, your case studies have been related to products only. So there was a question, is there a difference of outlook between product and service design? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, right? I mean, one of my my examples was purposely service. What we actually gave was the Kohls example was a service, which all of us are doing portal development, right? We are building mobile apps, we are building portal development, etc. The two examples I gave was a product example because what do? Even if you want to manufacture something, you got to have an underlying system, and you got to have underlying thing. How do you identify? For very long, we have lived with IT SLAs, right? We have not looked at how that application is going to be used and why it's going to be used. Where we have done that, where we have worked with the business to understand where the applications are used, we do a fabulously good job of it. So design thinking gives you a peek into beyond what is obvious. So if you understand how your product is going to be used and how it's going to be manufactured and what sort of products and materials and things are going to be brought and sourced and ecosystem, is it not a great input for us to design applications that will make that happen? And that's what we are in here for, not to build applications the way we know it. So I would say, as design thinkers, go beyond, either it can be applied to both products and service equally. Products is more tangible. You can see, I think service design is catching up in a big way. I would say as BAs in the IT world who are predominantly here, concentrate on service design. Okay, thanks.